On a quiet southern night, the air heavy with the scent of pine and magnolia, a young black man named Walter McMillian sat alone in a prison cell, staring at the ceiling, knowing he had been sentenced to die for a crime he did not commit. Imagine that, knowing the clock is ticking on your life, not because of what you've done, but because the system decided you were easier to condemn than to protect. This is not the plot of a crime novel. This is America. And it's the world Bryan Stevenson invites us into in his book, Just Mercy. Bryan Stevenson is not your typical lawyer. He didn't come from a family of power or wealth. Born in rural Delaware, he grew up seeing both kindness and injustice in the people around him. By the time he got to Harvard Law, Stevenson was learning how the law worked. But more importantly, he began to see who it worked for and who it worked against. Just Mercy, published in 2014, is his memoir of fighting for people condemned to death, many of them poor, Black, mentally ill, or simply forgotten. And while the book is full of courtroom drama and tense legal battles, its real subject is deeper. It's about mercy, redemption, and the simple truth that we are all more than the worst thing we've ever done. At its core, Just Mercy says this: the opposite of poverty isn't wealth, it's justice. A society is measured not by how it treats the rich and powerful, but by how it treats the poor, the accused, and the condemned. One of the most gripping stories in the book is Walter McMillian's. In 1986, Walter, a Black man in Monroeville, Alabama, the same town where Harper Lee set to kill a mockingbird, was arrested for the murder of a young white woman named Rhonda Morrison. There was no credible evidence, just the desperate testimony of another man trying to save himself by pointing the finger at someone else. Still, Walter was convicted and sentenced to die. Stevenson took on Walter's case when it seemed hopeless. Through years of digging, uncovering lies, and confronting a deeply racist system, Stevenson finally proved Walter's innocence. But even after Walter was freed, the scars of what had been done to him, to his family, to his dignity, could never fully fade. From Walter's story, Stevenson teaches us the first key lesson. Injustice thrives when we are willing to look away. It's easy to think that wrongful convictions are rare or that the system mostly works. But the reality is, without someone willing to dig for the truth, to question the easy answers, innocent people can and do die in prison. And for every Walter McMillian we hear about, there are countless others whose names never make the news. The call to action here is simple yet demanding. We have to keep looking, keep asking, keep caring. The second lesson comes from the people most of us would rather not think about, those on death row who are guilty. Stevenson does not excuse their crimes, but he insists we see their humanity. Many came from abusive homes, grew up in poverty, suffered mental illness, or endured trauma so severe it shaped every decision they made. Stevenson shares the story of Herbert Richardson, a Vietnam veteran whose untreated PTSD left him paranoid and unstable. Herbert committed a terrible act, one that killed a young girl. Yet when Stevenson met him, he saw a man broken long before that day, a man who had served his country and then been abandoned by it. Herbert was executed, but not before Stevenson stood by him in his final hours. The lesson is uncomfortable, but powerful. Each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Injustice without mercy becomes cruelty. A third lesson comes from Stevenson's work with children sentenced to life without parole. In America, we sometimes lock away kids, some as young as 13, for crimes they committed before they were even old enough to drive. Stevenson tells the story of Charlie, a young boy whose life spiraled after years of abuse. After one desperate act, he was put in an adult prison where he was brutalized and traumatized. Stevenson fought for his release, and the victory wasn't just about Charlie's freedom. It was about the belief that no child is beyond hope, and that throwing away children is a betrayal of our shared humanity. A fourth lesson is deeply personal. Stevenson admits that doing this work takes a toll. He describes moments of exhaustion, despair, and anger. But he also shares a transformative encounter with an elderly woman who attended every day of Walter McMillian's trial. When Stevenson asked why she came, she said she was there to be a stone catcher. Someone who stands in the way when society starts throwing stones at the vulnerable. It's a metaphor for the work of justice. We can't stop all the stones, but we can step in for someone, shield them, let them know they're not alone. Stevenson learned that proximity, getting close to the people who are suffering, is the only way to truly understand and to make change. A final crucial lesson is about hope. Stevenson says hopelessness is the enemy of justice. The system depends on people giving up, on them believing nothing will change. But hope is what fuels the fight. Even in the darkest moments, facing court losses, watching clients die, feeling the weight of systemic injustice, Stevenson insists that hope is a form of power. Without it, nothing changes. With it, even the smallest act of mercy can ripple outward in ways we may never fully see. As the book closes, Stevenson reminds us that mercy is never just for the innocent. It's for us all. Because sooner or later, we all need it. None of us is defined solely by our mistakes, and none of us is beyond redemption. So when you think back to Walter McMillian in that cell, staring at the ceiling, remember that his story could have ended there, but it didn't, because someone chose to see him, to believe him, to fight for him. And if we want a world that is more just, more compassionate, it will take all of us choosing over and over again not to look away. Just Mercy is not an easy read, but it is a necessary one. It forces us to confront the gaps between our ideals and our realities, to see the people our society would rather forget, and to ask ourselves what we're willing to do about it. Because in the end, justice is not just a legal concept. It's a daily choice to extend mercy, even when it's hard. And maybe that's where real change begins. If you've never read Bryan Stevenson's Just Mercy, I encourage you to pick it up. Let it challenge you, unsettle you, and inspire you. And if this conversation stirred something in you, share it. Because the more we talk about mercy, the more real it becomes in the world around us.